Can you please talk about the economy in general? What happened to hotels, restaurants? What about factory workers? Did you see a lot of people being laid off? Are they still working? What is the average salary of certain people in different fields? And are they able to make a living wage from that?
About hotel, restaurant salaries, etc. Well, I can tell you right now that in 1999 we had the best purchasing power, I think, probably in the whole planet, and I'm not joking. I mean, if you worked 1 year, you could have just made the down payment for a house, and you could have, paid off that house entirely if you wanted to by you working 2 more years. If you wanted to buy a car brand new, I mean, people were changing cars every year like if it was nothing. And this was just regular minimum wage salary people, people that had more money than that. Oh hell, they will buy everything just cash. Like, you go to the agency and you get the car, $25,000, you pay for it, and then you leave. That's it, no big deal. And a hell of a lot of things have happened since that time. Now, number one, mainly that, like I said, people that were middle class and upper class were always traveling. Like, if you were middle class, like a regular teacher or a nurse or something like that, that was like the middle class. If you wanted to go to, Aruba for a casino during the weekend and spend $2,000, you could do it and then come back, to work on Monday, and that's it. And airplanes were very, very, good, and they were available, and they were over I think it was 19 or 20 choices as to how to travel abroad. We didn't require visas going anywhere. If you needed your passport, all you needed to do was pay somebody in the government and you will have it next day. And there was a lot of bribing, but it wasn't considered bribing. It was just kind of like, somebody that will give you that, and then you do it, and then you send them something. And in fact, when you worked for a company in December, you got a hell of a lot of presents from the companies. If you have 5 kids, each kid will get their, Christmas present from the company, which was normally something very expensive, American toys and stuff like that. Of course, this was in 1999, but then Chavez said to the poor people that they had the right to travel and stuff like that, which, by the way, no one ever told them not to. But the thing is that usually middle class and poor people, they have a tendency to have, a lot of kids. And so it's not the same you having $2,000 for you and maybe a couple of other people in your house than you having $2,000 for 9 or maybe 10 people in your house. You will need more things that, are for 10 people. So poor people also lived in neighborhoods that were very not safe and stuff like that. And the government said that this was the fault of the rich people because they lived in safe places and they were living the places that were not good for them, which I don't know how that idea just happened, but it wasn't truth. And everybody had the chance to literally, if there was a country that represented the American dream, it would have been Venezuela and the US. Only the US have more problems in terms of taxes and in terms of paperwork and in terms of everything. My country doesn't have those things. And in terms of other stuff. So a lot of people were very, very, very happy with everything. So they stayed, thinking that this was not going to be possible. Right now, yeah, like I said, 20 years later, if you were to try to buy a car, yeah, I would like to know what kind of clothing are you going to try to wear there, because if you were going to buy the clothing to try to get there, you are not going to be able to afford that clothing. You're not going to be able to afford those shoes. Hell, for all I know, there are a hell of a lot of people that do not wear underwear because buying underwear is very expensive for some people, especially bras for the women. And in terms for the salaries, like I said, this is a vicious cycle because the government decided that they were going to raise the salary every time that that the money was not enough for a family. So this created problems in terms of cost for all of the industries. So there was a lot of people that decided to leave because they were not going to be slaves. So now you can find a hell of a lot of people that are trying to look for workers. It's just that a lot of people will not work because the salaries are not worth it. And not only that, but the problem with you working is that you need to get there and there is no gasoline and there is no cars and there is no public transportation. So how the hell do you go there? Especially to the industry areas, because industry areas are usually not near residential areas. So you need transportation of some sort. And there will be people that will go to their jobs walking, but that is not doable if it is rainy season. And so in terms of the workers and the salaries, I can tell you that unless you are your own boss or unless you are in illegal things, then you are basically making no money. The other alternative will be if you have income coming from another country, but that one is a whole other topic. And so that's how people will have money to deal with their own necessities. And in terms of the hotels and restaurants, right now I can tell you that if you go to Caracas, you are not going to find a hotel. I'm sorry, they are all filled, even though they cost $100 and something every single night. You're not going to find one because people in Caracas, there is it's like you go to another country. You go to a Caracas and then you go to another country. And if you wanted to go to a restaurant in Caracas, that will cost you $200 for a lunch. That place is going to be packed and you're not going to be able to get in. Also in Caracas. Some places in Valencia may be a little bit like that, but they're always empty. And that, and living in Valencia will be kind of like living the most real Venezuela because it's not an extreme thing. Valencia is the city that is an industry city, but at the same time we are a port. We have a port nearby, and we have a lot of things. So we have whatever that is left from the middle class is very, very likely going to be here in Valencia. However, like I said, if you go to Caracas, you're either rich or poor. And if you go to the rest of the entire country, no, you're poor or you're a criminal, very likely. So, it all will depend upon where you are. It will not depend upon your merit, and it will not depend upon, you or what you do, as in your profession. It will just depend upon where you are. Everything will be related to where you are. If you are in a town that has less than 1 million people, you are likely going to be considered like if you were in the countryside or something like that. If you are in a city that has between 1 and 2 million people like mine, and you have an industry, you might be able to find a middle class people, because somehow we still manage to be kind of okay. And if you go to a city that has more than 2 million people, you are going to find extremities in terms of income. You are going to be either very, 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 very poor or very, 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 very rich. And then, like I said, depending upon where you are, you will be able to find hotels or you will be able to find nothing. If you go to the countryside, there is no hotels there. You have to stay with somebody or sleep in your car. For example, if you wanted to go to another cities, not Valencia, but other cities, you're not finding a hotel. Why? Well, because they don't exist. They just don't exist. I mean, you will have to literally try, and I do mean try to work it out in your own car, which is why people will rather just drive straight for 16 hours without stopping, because otherwise, you might be, you take your chances in falling asleep at the wheel, which is why you try to go with other people. In terms of, hotels, restaurants, and parking and stuff like that, because, we don't have trains. If we had trains, we will be entirely in a different situation. But trains, we're being built, but, we don't have trains. If we had trains, like I said, trains will be packed and trains will be like the best transportation system ever. But we don't have that. And the restaurants, like I said, mostly right now, it will be all delivery services because of the pandemic and things like that. And if you go to a restaurant, it will be, kind of like, depending upon where you are, you might be able to find something. But if you go to the countryside, the restaurants are available and they will be very cheap compared to other cities like mine. If you go to a restaurant in the countryside, you can spend, let's say, $20 and you can feed, 2 or 3 people with that money. And it will be very good meals, by the way, because the countryside is filled with cows in certain places, not all of them, but certain places. And they will have their own slaughterhouse in the restaurant. So, to avoid costs and transportation and fuel and things like that. So that will help the cost of restaurants in certain places and stuff. So, I don't know. I hope that this information is helpful.